Thank you for watching the KC Auction video blog today. My name is Jason Roske. I'm the host and the owner of the KC Auction Appraisal Company here in Kansas City, and I'm truly excited, honored, and humbled to introduce our guest this week. I've known Mike Bradley for many years online. We've met a few times in person, but Mike is, he's the owner of Mike Bradley and Associates. He's the executive director of the Ohio Auction School, adjunct facility for Hondros College of Business. Over his career as an auctioneer, he has sold $48 million plus worth of materials, 28,000 cars. He has a weekly public auction in Groveport, Ohio. He sells real estate and more. He's done hundreds of appraisers as a certified appraiser Guild of America member. He's an expert legal witness across the country, forensic consultant for probate, civil, bankruptcy cases, and more. And on the Mike Bradley Auctioneer blog, he has over 1,000 posts related to the auction industry. And again, thank you, Mike, so much for joining us. Tell us a little bit about how you got interested in and involved with the auction industry. And you've been in the industry since '79, is that correct?
That's right. And thanks, Jason, for having me on. What a pleasure to be with you. Attended auctions as a kid. My dad and mother and brother, they were social events. Grew up on a farm, and that was the way you settled an estate. Was you had a big public event auction, invited everybody to participate, and so I got an early taste of auctions and auction marketing and the method of moving property in that fashion, and helped an auctioneer in Richmond, Indiana, right out of high school. Even before I went to auction school, went out to Missouri Auction School in 1982 after I finished college here at Ohio State University, and been in the auction business ever since.
All right, and that didn't click. So we're going to talk today about, and if you're watching, if you have questions, go ahead and post them below. We're going to talk today about a couple of different things related to the auction industry at large, kind of where we are, the struggles and challenges, not with just Corona, but as the business as a whole, and then what we see the future going to be for the auction industry. So, Mike, why don't you kind of tell people where you see the auction industry today, where it's come from, and what you think about where we're at as an auctioneer community today?
Well, certainly, I had argued prior to the pandemic that we were kind of, I don't know if we were 60-40, 50-50 or whatever, between, say, live auctioneers and online auctioneers. And that seemed pretty stable. Seemed like we were going to stay around that number. There, you always have a few auctioneers that are saying, yeah, we're going to move to online. And quite frankly, we've had auctioneers here in my market of Ohio that had been online that were transitioning back to live. Said, really, I'm getting better results live than I am online, particularly real estate and automobiles. Nonetheless, it seemed fairly stable. Well, Jason, as you know, that all changed. So we got a pandemic, we got the coronavirus, we got COVID-19, and oh my gosh, we got to shelter in place. We got to wear a mask. We got to stay 6 feet apart. We got to use hand sanitizer. We have to, and live auctions weren't a good fit. And as you know, some of the largest, most prominent auction companies on earth, right here in the United States, Barrett-Jackson was moving to online auctions, not live auctions, online auctions. And so I think as a result, obviously, I think it's obvious to everybody, we've seen a transition to online. And, if we were setting at 60-40, we may be setting today at 80-20.
Right.
So it's opened those doors. It's allowed auctioneers to maybe, I know auctioneers that said, I'll never have an online auction. And what are they doing today? They're having an online auction. So it exposed them to something that they didn't think they needed to be exposed to, but it required, pushed them. So it's the other thing, and we're going to talk more about this. The other thing about whether you're having a live auction or an online auction or some sort of combination, simulcast, if you will, is we've really taken what a lot of people consider to be a live auction was an auction that well, it's Saturday and this is Tuesday, and so I have to wait, and then I have to park, and then I have to get out of my car, and I have to register, and then your terms and conditions really bother me, but I'm going to sign them anyway, and then bid and maybe get it or maybe not get it. And I think the misconception is, oh, well, see, all you do is take that live event, that awful, terrible, bothersome, cumbersome process and put it online. So here I am on Tuesday with your online auction that closes Saturday. I have to wait just as long. I can't see the item as well. I have to pay immediately. I have to either pick it up or wait for shipment or what have you. I think I don't know. It seems to me that we've taken a live auction, and a lot of auctioneers are convinced that, well, if you move it online, it just makes it so much more attractive to today's consumer. And I disagree wholeheartedly. I think the typical consumer is looking for, here's what my typical consumers are looking for. Click, put it in a cart on my front porch the next day. Amazon, Walmart, eBay, maybe not eBay strictly speaking, but retailers otherwise. If you took auctioneers out of the commerce realm and just looked at retailers otherwise in the United States, what have they done lately? I can buy a car out of a vending machine. I can have my groceries. I can buy groceries and have them delivered and put away in my refrigerator. I can buy insurance online with a click. I don't need a travel agent. I click on Expedia. I've got an airline. I got a hotel. I got a rental car. My son bought bought a home, needs financing. I said, have you been to a mortgage banker, mortgage broker? He said, Dad, it's all done. I hit a couple buttons. I got a mortgage in 5 minutes. Online auctions are not solving anything. They're changing it to maybe, for some people, easier. But we are a mile away from the conveniences that other retailers have put out there for the consumers. We are nowhere near as easy and seamless and frictionless as most other retail. And that's where we're behind. And if we don't catch up here, I wonder about the future of the auction business. I don't wonder about all of it, but I wonder about a segment of it that is not keeping up with the rest of commerce. And if you say an online auction is keeping up with the rest of commerce, I'm going to disagree with you.
That's a great point. And we do things to try and emulate the Amazon experience, but you're right. We haven't figured out a way to shorten the time frame that you talked about. I think that's probably always been a differentiator and a positive and negative of auctions, though. Like I don't think there's rarely anything that's ever been sold at auction that you couldn't buy in a store at some point in some place.
Right.
Right. And so that's always been a rub of the auction method. Mm-hmm. So I think it's interesting. And if we could figure out a way to streamline the presentation and sale of more unique assets, then it becomes more appealing to more people. I think that's a huge issue.
I'm sorry to interrupt. I think if you are offering in your auction company there, Jason, items that I can't get from Amazon or otherwise online, and I have to wait a couple days and I have to bid and put my credit card in, and then I have to wait for it to be shipped, I'm willing to do that because I can't find that item anywhere else.
Right.
But if you're selling commodities or you're selling the same thing that can be purchased online otherwise, and this might include used cars in many markets, well, there's an easier way. I don't have to buy your used car. I can press a button and a rollback pulls up in front of my house and they unload it. And I don't know auctioneers that are offering that service.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, buying a card of a vending machine sounds ridiculous to say, but there's one here in Kansas City. I drive by it regularly.
Yeah.
Right off the highway, it's this huge vending machine of cars.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's an amazing idea that takes obviously a lot of capital to create and run that. But once you get that going, mm-hmm. And I'm sure that their sales have to be up right now, right? Because people still want to buy things.
They do. And here's something else that company does that you're driving by there in Kansas City. The car's delivered on that rollback, and you have 7 days to decide if you want to keep it or not. Now, find me an auctioneer that offers and there's possibly one or a handful or something, but the typical auctioneer doesn't charge or doesn't allow a refund policy or a test period or a tryout, hey guys, now tonight you're buying all this stuff and take it home. And within a week, if you don't like it or change your mind, just bring it back. Old Mike will refund your money. See, I don't say that at our auctions. I doubt you say it at your auction.
No, not at all. Because part of the issue is it's not our merchandise, right? It's not our money.
Yeah.
We only get a percentage, a portion of that. With the Carvana, they own that inventory and they can just put it back on the shelf.
Yeah.
Whereas our clients would not have the same feelings of that, especially in certain situations. It's an interesting idea, though. I am not one to shy away from a new idea, and I think that's a really curious idea. If you can get your clients to sign on with that, you would probably generate more revenue for everybody long term. Like you would almost have to increase your buyer pool and the bids placed if somebody bought whatever it is, whether it's a painting from us or a car from you, or an appliance from an estate sale. If they knew they could bring it back,
yeah,
your retail buyers would have to pay more. Like they just would. Even your wholesale buyers.
If the buyers are paying more, for example, I've offered auctioneers typically say what as is and where is, no guarantees, no warranties. Once you buy it, it's yours. Does that sound familiar to anybody out there? I imagine. Well, let's do this. Let's take as is and where is out. We're going to sell this stuff. We're going to describe it properly. We're going to stand behind it. We're going to warranty it or guarantee it. And if it's not what we say it is, you can bring it back. Now, the question becomes, a lot of auctioneers will tell me, well, now, Mike, you can't do that. You can't do that because you can't stand behind the seller's stuff and you can't warranty it or whatever. Well, if the seller agrees to warranty it or understands it might come back, yes, we can do it. And secondly, would the seller benefit from, as you just said, are there going to be additional buyers that say, oh, yeah, I can buy at his auction because he guarantees his stuff. He stands behind it. And how does the seller benefit? Does more buyers and better buyers benefit the seller? See, we tend to forget if we can get 300 bidders signed online instead of 125, our price is going to be higher. They are.
Yeah.
And is the seller going to say, well, then sign me up for that? Yeah, I understand I have to warranty or guarantee, or I might have an item come back or something, but I'm getting more money for the items. Isn't that the goal here?
Yeah, and I think our clients, if we, and honestly, our company, we don't guarantee or stand behind everything we sell, but if we misrepresent something and somebody points it out to us, send it back or bring it back. We will make it right.
Yeah.
And I've eaten many, many things and resold them 6 months or a year later because we missed damage or we had something wrong about it. So yeah, why do I have that blanket statement if it's all as is where is? If it doesn't even apply to what we do, I should just own the fact that we'll take stuff back, talk to my clients ahead of time and say, why don't send out checks a little longer because we're going to wait and make sure everybody gets what they get and are happy with it. And we know based upon history and personal experience that people will pay more for that. So that's such a great nugget out of this conversation that I want to look at implementing for us personally.
Well, and your current seller who says, I don't want to warranty or guarantee or stand behind it. The argument is, well, guess why this bidder today registered for your auction? Because at the last auction, that seller stood behind that stuff. He bought 12 items. One of them wasn't as described. Jason, you refunded his money. He brought it back. Now, where is he next week? He's back at your auction because you treated him right. Your current seller is benefiting from how you've treated your bidders prior. So we're going to treat bidders better at your auction for our future sellers. This is paying forward. I've got to offer guarantees and warranties so that those bidders feel good about this auction, but they feel good about your next auction. And bidders that are at your auction or my auction say, hey, this guy treats me right. If he sells something that's not as described or there was some sort of hidden material defect or whatever that we couldn't discover, he takes it back. And where are they next week? And here's Jason, here's the other thing I don't think auctioneers think about. That bidder that you treat particularly well, or your bidder pool that you treat particularly well, tells their friends, their neighbors, their family, their coworkers, hey, you got to come down to this guy's auction. He is wonderful. Isn't that what you want to hear? No, we
Absolutely.
don't want to hear that. As is, where is, get your stuff out of here. No guarantees, no warranties, leave me alone. That's real attractive.
Yeah, no, and what's amazing about what you just said is we had a buyer buy some 18th to 19th century flatwood. It's not worth a lot of money in California.
Yeah.
He got it. He was thrilled. He put a 15-minute story on his Instagram page
Oh, yeah.
about how thrilled he was, and he tagged our company in it.
Perfect.
And the only reason he bought from us is because of that reputation he has seen us create over years. And doing those things like you talked about, we do when we sell jewelry. If it's not just a gold or silver band or whatever, if there's any stones at all, we pay a local appraiser who has 25 years experience to come in and look at every piece and tell us if it's real or not, size, cut, clarity, the whole 9 yards. And guess what? Guess what happened? Our jewelry prices are through the roof.
Yep.
And we get more calls to sell more good jewelry. And so if you're an auctioneer watching this, and I've seen an angry face emoji come up from something we've said, a lot of the things we say sound abhorrent to longtime auctioneers.
Yeah.
But the reality is, if you treat your customers and your clients right, and that means going that extra step and doing those things that might cost you a little bit more money, you're going to come out way ahead in the long run.
And your sellers come out ahead.
Oh, yeah.
Auctioneers will argue till the cows come home. I got to take care of my seller, so I've got to sell as is. Let's look at it a different way. I wonder if you could take better care of your seller by not selling as is. And, we want to limit liability. We want to waive. We want to disclaim. We want to, to protect our seller. I wonder if we're protecting our seller from higher prices.
That's funny and sad and scary at the same time, right? Wow, that protecting from a higher price. I'm going to use that when I'm talking about my competition.
There you go. They're protecting you all right.
I like that line a lot, especially when you're talking to somebody who's considering doing a tag sale as opposed to an auction.
Yeah, they're protecting.
Because oftentimes that idea of, well, I can protect my pieces, I can protect the value, I can protect the price by putting a price on it at an estate sale. You can protect yourself from a higher price too.
Yeah, we're yeah.
You mentioned that the difference. You mentioned early on in the conversation when you said there were some auctioneers in your area we're migrating from online back to in person.
Yes.
I know that you were doing a weekly online, in-person auction. Since the pandemic started, obviously moving back isn't an option for most people right now. But what are you seeing as far as attendance and activity at your live auctions there in Ohio every Wednesday?
About the same pre-pandemic, with the exception of some folks that say I'm not wearing a mask or I refuse to wear a mask. Well, we're in a state that mandatory mask. So when they come in and we say, hey, you don't have a mask on, and they say we're not putting a mask on, we tell them to go home. You can't property. So we lose a few of those folks that just don't want to, play along for the greater good, as I would argue. But crowd's good. We had one this Wednesday. This is Friday, so Wednesday. We had a live auction with probably 150, 175 people here. 2 rings for about 3 hours, and well attended, good prices. Everybody had a mask on but me, and everybody was 6 feet away from me.
Right.
So you can do it. Now, your other question, are there auctioneers that are seeing, well, we went online and then we went back to live, and what they're telling me is, and they were doing this pre-pandemic for years, was particularly real estate and like items where there's I want to touch it, I want to smell it, I want to feel it, I want to experience it. And they weren't getting the prices online. They went back to live, and they're getting higher prices on the touchy-feely stuff. I mean, if I'm buying 9-volt batteries, I buy those online. I don't have to go to the store and look at them and touch them and whatever. But if I'm buying a house, and further, if I'm buying a car, do I want to sit in it? Do I want to feel it? Do I want to look out the back window while I'm sitting in the, and you can't do that online. At least yet, we can't do that kind of stuff online.
Right. Yeah. There are definitely limitations to certain things to being sold online. I know that we noticed years ago that, we're in the antique industry, in the antique portion of it. If something has damage, it will bring much less online than it will in person. Because in person, they can see it and they're there. they might as well buy it if it's cheap enough, or bid on it if it's not to their level. But if it's online, they're not going to bid on it to buy it and then have to figure out how to get it afterwards. And so we've had to really kind of curate with the estates we work with to make sure that we're representing them as best as we can and protecting them from less money, not from more money, because we want to get them the most money they can. Obviously, that's our whole role, our whole goal. So we talked about a bunch of different things, challenges with the corona and stuff, and the online. What other challenges do you see, both again with and without the pandemic? What kind of things do you see in the auction industry outside of the efficiency of it? Comparing it to Amazon and such. What other kinds of issues and concerns do you see with the auction industry?
Well, the other major concern I have, or observation I have, is that there are companies, online platform companies, that are catering directly to the seller, taking the auctioneer out of the transaction, or disintermediation, as we call it. So maybe I don't think it's any secret. Auctioneers been putting stuff on online platforms around the United States and otherwise for years. That data, those buyers, those sellers, those email addresses, phone numbers, addresses, contact information, is all housed on that, in that cloud somewhere, or on that server. And then that company can, and I'm not pointing at any one, but those companies then say, well, can we use this data to market directly to buyers and sellers? Can we take the auctioneer out of the formula? And I think I don't think we're done seeing that, but if they could, the only thing that's keeping those companies from servicing sellers directly and selling those products is that their software's not there yet, where most sellers say, oh yeah, I could do that. I make a hotel reservation online on my phone because the hotel folks and Expedia and everybody else has made it just elementary. Click, 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 I got a hotel room. Well, online platforms, and we use them, we've had to use them, it's not intuitive. They're not straightforward.
Right.
But are they working to make it straightforward? I think they are. And they've got, these companies have resources, money, venture capital, what have you. Are they going to make the online platform so easy that, for example, I could foresee this. I've got my phone here. Could I take a picture of the item? The software identifies the item. Does the whole description without me having to type any description. All I do is take a picture of it. It says that's an 18th century, this, that, and the other, and there's the dimensions, and it weighs this much. And hit one more button, or maybe I don't even have to hit another button, and it's on the platform. And 10 seconds later, I got a bidder in Cambodia bidding on it. I don't think we're that far away from there. Well, then, if I'm that seller with that item, do I call you? Do I call me? Do I need an auctioneer to do that? No, I got an app on my phone that does that, and I don't need an auctioneer at all. I think that's a legitimate fear as we move ahead here with high tech.
Yeah, I could see that being the case. I think the area, the way that we can differentiate ourselves from a software is, as good as software is and as good as Google Images is, there's always that concern that it's not correct. And until they can rectify that situation, I think that there's a lot of opportunity for fraud in that world, with having just the software look at it without having a second set of eyes in the right area. Speaking of that,
warranty or guarantee for 7 days after to mitigate that possible loss or issue.
Right. Speaking of that, one of the questions I've had and thoughts I've had over the years in the auction industry is, the auctioneer is a specialist in everything, right? Specializes in cars, estates, benefits, real estate, blah, 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 anything that you can put on a gavel. How can, I think that's a huge concern, not a concern necessarily for the general public, but how do you differentiate yourself as an auctioneer if that is your mentality? If your mentality is, well, if it's there, I can sell it. We say no to 95% of the calls we get because we are very defined in what we try and offer, right? There are auctioneers here in my community that have told me they're coming after my business because they do really well in business liquidation and guns and coins, and antiques and art isn't that different from all that stuff. And I'm like, okay.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And I know enough to know that I like guns, I know a little bit about them, but I certainly don't know the ins and outs of them, right? And so if I were to get a big gun collection, I would probably co-broker that with somebody else who has the knowledge and the background and the bidder base.
Yep.
Do you see that a lot around the country? Do you think that's a concern or an issue worth talking about?
Well, it's tempting to pop out of auction school and say, I'm going to be an auctioneer. And the first call comes in and it's an estate with personal property and household and furniture and whatnot, and tools, who knows, and say, yep, I can do that. And the next call 6 months later is an attorney with a business liquidation. Yeah, I can do that. And the next guy's got cars and yep, I can do that. We tell our students in auction school, get in the habit of saying, yeah, I can help you with that. But the downside of always saying yes is you're not acting like, you're not behaving like a specialist.
Mm-hmm.
And that person with that, well, look around the United States. If you have high, super high $1 million plus 10 million, 100 million artwork, do a couple auctioneers come to mind that handle that in New York? If you have collector cars, high-end collector cars, do a couple companies come to mind? If you have yellow iron, does anyone think of a company based in Canada that handles a lot of yellow iron?
Right.
Those companies that specialize get those types of consignments, and the generalist generally doesn't.
Right.
And you know, you need the old joke is you need brain surgery. So you go to a doctor and you say, hey, can you do brain surgery? Oh, I do feet, eyes, teeth, I do it all. You know, whatever lung problems you need your arm in a cast. I do all kinds of surgery. Is that your brain surgeon? Probably not. You want somebody who what? Specializes in brain.
Right.
So I think there's merit in specializing. I think auctioneers should maybe not widen the parameters, but maybe pull in a little bit, and they might not see as much business, but they might find they're getting better business. And you're not looking for volume of business so much as profitable business.
Oh yeah, one good auction is worth 10 poor ones every day of the week.
Absolutely. And the better you get, the more you get. If the things you sell, Jason, people know you as a specialist in that, and then they call you when they have those items. And it's not what you tell me you do, it's what you show me you do, and you show people. And so you get that, you benefit from to a degree specializing. And I think there's a lot of merit in not being, say, a generalist, but to some extent a specialist. Absolutely.
Well, and you talk about protecting our clients' money. It protects our money too, right? If they're calling us because we specialize in it, we can command a higher commission.
That's right.
There's just no doubt about it. And I lose deals to other companies who cut rate commission because they want to get the deal. And yeah, I'd like to have had it, but it doesn't. Why? Why would I hurt myself like that?
Right.
And when you start hiring somebody based on a cut rate commission, are you really getting their best work?
Well, precisely. And there's another saying that you and I are both familiar with: you don't know what you don't know. So you specialize in certain things, and I bring you an inventory of who knows what items that are outside of that specialty. Well, you market them the best you can, like any auctioneer would, but you don't know what you don't know. And the guy that specializes in that says, gee, he should have done this and done that. We've learned that over the years. We're specialists in that area, So getting really good at something. I guess as you introduced me, I do expert witness work around the United States for auctioneers, and attorneys will call and say, I need you. I've read about you. I found you online. What do you charge? And I tell them, I'm not bashful about it. Here's what we need: a retainer up front. Here's our hourly rate plus expenses. And I had an attorney. It's kind of funny. I had an attorney the other day. He says, well, I can't pay that. And I said, okay, that's fine. Have a good day. And he hung up. 3 days later, he calls me, comes up on my phone. I see the number. I know the number. And his first words out of his mouth were, okay, what's your routing number and account number so I can wire that retainer? He said, I couldn't find anybody else. He says, I guess you can charge whatever you want, can't you? I said, I can.
Yeah, as he can as well,
As
right?
you can too. That's right. So,
I had a lady contact us the last couple of weeks about selling a nice little piece of local art, and I gave her our commission rate, and her response was one word in the email: "Yowzer."
yeah,
And I said, "What exactly does that mean?" And she clarified that she thought it was a high commission, and I gave her information as to why we can charge that.
right,
She brought it in the next day. I also sent her a list of results of similar objects we have sold in the last couple of years.
right.
Um, and she came in like the following day with not only the art but a pile of jewelry
Hmm.
at my full commission rate. Right? It's just not because I charge a lot or little or whatever. I charge a fair rate, but I know what we're worth,
That's right.
and and I'm going to treat that woman's stuff right, and she's going to get good bright money out of it. And where she's already talking about digging through her basement to find the historically important artifacts. Her family is important in Kansas City. I didn't know this.
Yeah.
And she's going to, we're talking about establishing 3 or 4 auctions with her in the next year, because we showed to her why we're worth that.
We auctioneers will routinely say you get what you pay for, right? Well,
yes.
you're a little higher. Maybe you're getting a better service, better capabilities. I've got a slide I use in some presentations, and there's a ribeye steak over here, bone-in 27-ounce ribeye steak for $59.99. And there's a bone-in ribeye steak over here for $4.99. And I asked which steak tastes better. Now, I'll always have some kind of sarcastic auctioneer say, "Well, I'm getting the $4.99." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what old Mike's doing. He ain't getting it, because guess what? That steak doesn't taste very good. You know darn well it doesn't taste very good because it's only $4.99. Does that $59.99 steak taste better? Sure it does." And so I think auctioneers, quite frankly, a lesson here might be, you know what? If you're able, raise your price a little bit. Would that give the impression, at least, that you had additional capability? He must be good. He's charging a high rate. I don't know if you make that connection.
Yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely that mentality out there that, I used to have an antique shop, and there was many times if I had something in the shop for a couple of months, I would either raise it or lower the price, and the sell through rate afterwards was about the same if I raised it or lowered it.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. We had a great conversation. Is there anything else you see in the future of the industry that's either appealing or concerning besides the conglomerates trying to take over and move into our space that we haven't talked about? What do you see as far as the future of the industry is concerned?
Well, the only other piece to it probably is I get asked this, and you likely get asked this: is there a place for a live auctioneer in the United States 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 30 years from now? And I would argue absolutely. I foresee an endless demand for highly skilled, highly trained bid callers. And they're working, at some of those companies we were referencing otherwise for artwork and yellow iron and collector cars and the like. I think on the high end stuff, the really high end stuff, that bid caller still makes a difference. Can make a difference. And then for the middle ground, for the auctioneers that are selling somewhere between the upper 20% and the lower 20%, somewhere in that middle piece, you just have to stay ahead of your sellers. In other words, I saw an example. I saw a question on Facebook. It said, "What kind of camera are you guys using?" Here's the answer to what camera you need to be using. One your seller can't buy and use himself. Because see, the same camera sellers can get. Well, sellers can take their own pictures with that.
I use my phone. Yeah. So can your seller.
Yeah. So it's not. We're not here yet, but I got some tooth whitening product at the grocery store. Did it myself. I went in to see the dentist. He says, "You need we'll do some whitening here, and then we'll check them over or whatever." And I said, "Well, I already did the whitening." He said, "Yeah, pretty soon you just do it all yourself." He said, "You won't need me at all." If people can do it themselves, a lot of people are going to do it themselves. They're not going to hire, you to do it because they can do it. So I guess the take home here is sharpen that knife, keep progressing, keep high tech, get the latest thing, get the better. If you have a choice between 3 cameras, get the high end one, and then replace that a year later with a higher end one. Because then I'm a seller, I'm in Kansas City, I'm taking pictures of my own stuff and sticking it on eBay, and I happen to land Jason on your site, and I say, what? Wow, look at his photos. Boy, he must be using some different camera than I am, and he's getting a lot higher prices. And what do I do with my next consignment? I bring it to you. See,
Yeah, absolutely.
you're doing a better job than I can do myself.
Yeah.
If you're just playing in the middle and you're using a $49.99 camera, I mean, there's sellers with better cameras than that. They can do it themselves. And I think that's a danger if we don't keep paying attention.
I think that's absolutely right. Always try and distinguish yourself through quality or quantity if you want to take the McDonald's route. But even McDonald's quality is the same. You never get a bad hamburger at McDonald's if you like their hamburgers, because they're all the same everywhere, every time.
Right. Very good.
So, Mikey, thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you watching, Mike has a lot of ways you can contact him, reach out to him. mbauctioneer.com is about Mike in particular. If you want to learn more about his expert appraisal, his appraisals, expert witness, consultant work, his WordPress, his blog has a ton, over 1,000 blog posts, and they're all really fascinating, interesting, researched and documented when appropriate. He doesn't put out a bunch of BS. It's all things that you can stand behind and know that he's telling you the right thing. If you want to reach out to Mike directly, MikeBrandley@msn.com is the way to do that.
That's right. Yeah, perfect.
Thank you, everybody, so much for watching the KC Auction video blog today. We do this every Friday. Next week, I'll be having Kate DePrisco from the Photo Bus KC on our show to talk about how they've adjusted their shutters here in Kansas City as a photography company during the pandemic. And I think it'll be really interesting for anybody watching. You can always see all of our shows at kcauctioncompany.com, information about our company there. If you have questions you want us to answer, info@kcauctioncompany.com is a great way to email us. Always give us a phone call at 816-283-3633. Again, Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. I had a great time. Love to talk to you about the problems we see in our industry, and I'm sure we'll have you on again sometime. And look forward to seeing you at either a conference and show or Designation Academy when and if they happen. We were doing that work yesterday. We're rewriting the AMM course for the NAA right now, and we talked about how do we put this together if it's going to be online, or if it's going to be simulcast, or if it's going to be in person only. And I think at a minimum, it's going to be simulcast, because they may not be able to get out of their contractual agreements with the hotel.
Well, that's right. That's one concern with state associations is we're locked in, so.
Yeah. So, Mike, thank you so much. Have a great afternoon. Have a great weekend. And for everybody watching, see you next time.